Well, hello there, ladies and gents. Great to see you again, and welcome back to Lessons by the Lake, the Oswego Private Wealth Show. Ryan Ruff here, your moderator. But as always, I got my right-hand man, Bob Bedraitis, Managing Director over at Oswego Private Wealth. We got another great episode teed up for everybody here today. We're going to be bringing on another great guest from Bob's Professional Network, exploring kind of the relationship of their two worlds between wealth management and today. Of course, we're getting into kind of SBA loan strategies, as I'm sure you guys, if you're joining us, whether it be on the podcasting platform or over on YouTube, you see our title here for the episode, Avenues of Opportunity, SBA Loan Strategies for Entrepreneurs. Really excited to get into today's episode with our guest being Miss Jani Beatty today. Jani being kind of a SBA relationship manager over at Northwest Bank. So really excited to have her aboard. But before we bring her on and get into the nitty gritty of her world, let's go ahead and say hi to Bob. Bob, it's good to see you today. How you doing?
Hi, Ryan. I'm doing great. And just before we turn this camera on, you and I were having a fun discussion about college football and our rivalry, your Penn State, my Ohio State. So we both probably have a lot of haters out there now toward both of us. But we might have to put a dollar bet on that on the.
I like the sound of that, Bob. Well, Bob, here, why don't I tee things up for you? You can kind of open it up for the audience today. We're talking about the intersection really with the work that you do with your client base, the business owner clients that we talk so much about on this show. And we're kind of looking at the intersection between that and some loan strategies that these kinds of business owners can be leveraging. Of course, Jani's going to talk about her world with SBA and how there really still is also a play for some of the business owners that you're typically working with, Bob. But why don't you set the scene for our audience? Why Jani? Why do we really want to bring her on, and give us any background you have?
Well, thank you, Ryan. I'd love to. I appreciate that. So lending strategies is not something that we're directly in here at Oswego Private Wealth, but we have some, great partners within the virtual family office when we talk about lending. And, as the old saying goes, cash is king and credit is queen. And many businesses do need to leverage loans to grow their businesses. And even before I get into that, I should just say a little bit about Jani. She and I are getting to know each other well. We've been working together just for a short period of time now. And Jani is first and foremost a mom. She has two young, I'll say they're young boys compared to my kids. She has Jack, who's at Oregon State, and then Burke, who's an athlete at West Lynn High School here in town. And Jani is a very active person. She's a hiker. She goes to concerts. She travels. And anyway, she's from Oregon. She's been in the lending space and business for a long time now. As a matter of fact, in her background, which includes Bank of America and Morgan Stanley, she was a vice president in private banking with Morgan Stanley. And in that capacity, she was a collaboration partner, not just in the lending space, but also in tax, wealth management, estate planning, M&A, even exit planning. So that's why I'm so excited to bring Jani on, because of her deep background in the kinds of things that we do here, as well as her expertise in lending in general and in SBAs in particular. So with that said, Jani Beatty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bob and Ryan.
So good to see you. So let's just dig right in. Let's just start out, and we're going to talk about SBA loans. Mm-hmm. What is that? What is an SBA loan? Why does it matter? How do people utilize SBA loans?
Yeah, that's a great question. Broadly speaking, SBA loans are, they're really kind of the backbone of lending for small businesses in America. So oftentimes we think of SBA loans as something that is really small and maybe doesn't apply to a business that's been around for a little while, but that is not the case. SBA loan is probably one of the most dynamic places in lending that you can be. The impetus behind that is some of the risk, about 75% on average, is offset from the bank's ledgers to the US government's ledgers. And what that does is it makes the banks able to be more nimble with lending and take some more risk on when you're looking at businesses, to look through that lens where you're going to have longer terms, which means more cash flow. In your world, Bob, longer terms, more cash flow, right? Financial advisors love that. They also love lower down payments, because what are lower down payments? less money they're taking from their investments to purchase a business. So SBA lending gives that kind of, in short, it helps entrepreneurs, founders, business owners have the ability to borrow, whereas they probably not get that kind of lending and usually won't at just a commercial structure without that guarantee behind it.
Wow, wow, that's really, really interesting, because I do think there's a misconception out there that SBA loans are only for startups. But I think I hearing you saying that no, you can be a much more mature business and utilize SBA lending,
Yeah.
maybe even in conjunction with traditional lending. Do you see that from time to time or often, that somebody might be using traditional lending sources commingled with SBA lending?
Yeah, absolutely. So SBA does have a limit on what we call the 7A program. 7A is a very flexible program that we have out there. And if we have a client who recently, the purchase price was, I think, somewhere around 6.5, 7. They maxed out on their 7A program. And in the client's word, I had to go to commercial to get the line of credit that they need, the operating line of credit. Why did they want to go to commercial? Because commercial requires a lot of covenants. It requires annual covenants, it requires annual fees. Whereas the SBA line of credit, it's there for your liquidity, right? For your expenditures that you need from time to time to be used and paid off. You have fees attached to it. So this, you can have a nice long 10-year fee out, or 10-year term out on your SBA line of credit. And so we went through that process. Like you said, we blended that commercial side, which is amazing. The rates are better, which is a lot of people are attracted to on the commercial side, but we can absolutely blend SBA with other commercial banking programs. And I have quite a few of those. In fact, I like to graduate my clients once they are been a business owner for a while and they're in a better spot where I can turn them out with a shorter term at commercial banking with a better rate. It takes 3 or 4 years to do it, but that's something that I look at with our clients. If they've had an SBA loan for a while and we could save them money on the commercial side, that's something we look at doing as well.
Oh, wow, I love it. You probably have tons and tons of stories of how you've helped businesses with SBA loans and traditional loans. I mean, you've been in both of these worlds for a long, long time, and I know you're just so passionate about the SBA space. Can you tell us a story or two where that really was the right thing to do, where maybe at first the business owner wasn't even thinking about SBA lending as a possibility?
One of the things that you hit on in your introduction about SBA lending is that there's a perception behind it. There's a perception that SBA lending is out there for people who can't afford to go another way, or for brand new startups, right? That kind of thing. But what I'm seeing more and more often are really people who are coming from being executives at major corporations, and they're very successful. They're SVPs, they're making mid 6 figures and higher, sometimes 7, that are coming to me and saying, we want to utilize SBA lending because it's a powerful wealth management tool as well. They are not going to have to liquidate all their investments and take that hit on taxes for doing that. They are looking to, you've list searchers. And the most surprising part, I think the trend that I'm seeing right now at my desk, which has kept me very, very busy the last couple of weeks, it's been people who are coming from very sophisticated, high-level jobs in the corporate world who are deciding to do something that's a little bit surprising, something we wouldn't have thought of. They didn't go to, for example, who goes to get their MBA to be a plumber? Says no one. No one goes to get their graduate degree to be a plumber. But what I'm seeing are a lot of really smart folks out there, and they're the generation of they're younger millennials who their brass ring, their gold star, their biggest goal in life is not to have the biggest office with a view. They're finding that their personal lives and what they want to achieve doesn't necessarily align with that vision of, I think, what we've had of America, or what success looks like for so long. And they do see the value in trades. We're talking your blue collar businesses, A lot of them are looking at these blue collar businesses, your roofers, your plumbers, your HVAC people, and going, this is something that not only can I do well, I can grow it, I can be really successful, and I'm going to use SBA. I may have investments out there with my financial advisors like Bob and substantial ones, but I want to use SBA for this reason. I don't want to take the hit of my taxes. I want that longer term. And I want to be more aggressive in making my offer. By being more aggressive in making your offer, it means I can, look at what we call the debt service coverage ratio, or another way to put that consumers understand more readily would be debt to income ratio in consumer lending. But SBA has different guidelines that are more forgiving on that. So I'm getting people coming to me again with really amazing backgrounds, really great pedigrees, and they are looking at the opportunity of, you've got a lot of baby boomers who are retiring from these businesses who haven't implemented the systems and the strategies and the software and that they have to bring to the table because of those degrees, because of their experiences.
You
I
make
find
me,
absolutely
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Just last week, the Wall Street Journal had an article with the headline, the new millionaire class, HVAC and plumbers.
Oh, I missed that.
You
Did
have
it
to look it
really?
up. It was just in the Wall Street Journal last week. But that does make me think a little bit about something that I see often in my business. Because in our virtual family office, we always want to make sure that we have elite attorneys, elite CPAs working with our clients, that they utilize appropriately the tax code, which allows them to minimize income in order to increase cash flow. And oftentimes, a traditional lender will look at their P&L and their balance sheet, and for lending or for valuations, and say this doesn't look that profitable. Well, it's wildly profitable, and it's just that it doesn't look that way necessarily off of a balance sheet or a P&L. And I know one of the things you told me last time we were together, you were telling me about a seller you had in the senior living space where the business didn't look that profitable. Matter of fact, I believe you told me they had been turned down by 6 banks already, but you discovered something as you asked the questions and really tried to understand their business that was able to successfully complete a loan for them.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great example of a business that was turned down by other banks. It got to me because I wanted to look at it. I said, well, let me look under the tires of this. What I do a little bit differently than a lot of SBA lenders is I'll go to the owner, the seller, and talk to them about why their expenses in certain categories are outsized. And what I found out very quickly was that this business owner who had been growing their business for quite some time, it was their first location. And now were selling off these smaller assisted living franchises and smaller assisted living locations to move to bigger beds and in different markets. But what I found is that they were still running all of their expenses. We're talking family cell phone bills, family's health insurance, car payments, a variety. And we are not the police about how people, first of all, we're not the police about how they do their taxes, right? But my goal was to understand what was going on here, because surely there was profit in this business. And maybe as a banker, we get a little bit too elitist and we're not really looking underneath the covers. We'll just look. A lot of bankers will say, I'm a balance sheet banker. That's it. The balance sheet's not there. The profit and loss is not there. I'm not going to look at it. I like to think the SBA, we get the opportunity, and I get the opportunity. I'm curious to go in there and ask those questions that other bankers aren't asking, so that we can qualify this lovely business owner who came to this business, who really wanted to get into the industry. This was the right business. I wanted to advocate for her and for the seller, and that required some work.
Well, that's something that I see over and over again, that many of my clients will discuss with me, is they'll just say, I'm relegated, my banker's relegated to the 4 corners of the documents, and there's a story behind the story. And I think that's one thing that you do exceptionally well, is what Ryan and I like to talk about a lot, which is the human element.
Yeah.
There often is a story behind the story. And if the only story is the balance sheet and P&L, there's a story beyond that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's interesting when I get deals that are coming from other banks and they're coming there because they haven't taken the time to understand, or the banker just is not that interested in unless it meets. Remember, I talked to a lot of bankers are like, oh, I'm a balance sheet banker, or I'm a this banker, and they're just looking at those financials. They're not looking at, a trend, for example, an expense that went up by double. That's going to affect whether or not you can lend to this business. I'm finding that different things are in the tax code, like you mentioned, where, a schedule, LLC is going to have sometimes more taxes because of the tax code changed in there, and it's going to be a jump, and it's going to affect whether or not we can lend to them. But being able to understand that and then explain it to your credit underwriting group is very important to me. That's where I feel it's a lot of traction in that and a lot of fun.
Well, you've really opened my mind to SBA lending. I was like so many others in the past. I just wasn't sure where it fit in outside of the startup world. And the fact that it does fit in significantly beyond the startup world, and that it can be combined with traditional lending. I hope everybody listening or watching this got a lot out of this conversation and saw the value.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you come at it from the position of the sellers. Your clients are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're founders. I come at it at the other end of the buyers of the business. That's where SBA is really the mergers and acquisition financing. We really stand out in what we can do and how we can do it. And what I'm finding more and more is smart financial advisors are doing a great job, like you, Bob, educating their clients, people that they know, about the value of leverage in addition to the assets that they have.
Well, Jani, we really appreciate your time today. One final question that I have for you, because we like to talk through this with any of the guests that we have on the show, is could you walk us through kind of what an experience of sitting down to have a conversation with you and your team looks like? Especially I think the interesting conversation that we're landing on here today is that successful business owner that's gone the commercial lending or has always thought about the commercial lending route. But you're over here saying, hey, well, hold on, there's some light for you to see in the SBA side of things. Walk me through what that conversation looks like, how that experience really plays out from that business owner's perspective.
So there are clients that I have right now that the commercial bank would love to finance. I'm going to be really honest. They just would love to finance. And I am getting, them saying, we would love to finance this. And the client is pushing back on some of these and saying, well, I want more cash flow in the business, and I'm not willing to, cash out my investments with my financial advisor. From the perspective when the client's there, those are the conversations that they're hearing, and I'm hearing from our kind of savvy buyers out there.
Very cool. Well, Jani, really do appreciate you and your time and your unique perspective here on the SBA loan side of things for business owners. For anybody out there that is interested in you and your team over at Northwest Bank and would like to look you guys up, learn more, or maybe even open up a dialogue, what's the best way somebody could find you online and start a conversation?
My name and Northwest Bank, just Jani Beatty and Northwest Bank. You can find me pretty readily.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for you and your time. And Bob, I know this is such a unique conversation today because it is one of the talking points, one of the, things on the table for a lot of business owners out there that are looking to leverage a loan in some capacity. Bob, for anybody that would appreciate a conversation with you, walking through the wealth management side of things, how a loan might impact X, Y, or Z in their financial world, how could somebody reach out to you and your team to have that conversation?
Yeah, hey, great starting point is just to start a conversation. My calendar is readily available online at our website, opwm.com. Also, oswegoprivatewealth.com, if you prefer to write it all out. If you like typing. And we just start a conversation. And then once I have a chance to really get to know you a little bit and find out if we can truly help you, then we are just so delighted to connect all the right advisors and experts like Jani into the conversation.
Thank you both. Appreciate both of your times today. Look, again, Jani Beatty joining us from Northwest Bank. So appreciate you. And look, folks, we want to take a final moment, as always, and thank you, our audience, for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two, I know I did, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whichever platform you check this out on today so that you don't miss out on future conversations where either Bob and I dive into some wealth management topics or we bring on one of our esteemed guests like Jani today to talk through today, obviously SBA loan strategies. Really enjoyed the conversation with Jani today, and we hope to have you guys back here for another one down the road. But look, for Bob and Jani, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long now, but we appreciate you all stopping by and being with us on Lessons by the Lake.